how the first book was made, and why it took years to finish? For many of us, reading is an everyday occurrence. We might read a few pages in bed at night or catch up on our favorite blogs during lunch break. How did they keep their stories from being lost forever? And most importantly, why did it take so long to make a single copy of a text? History isn't just the past. It's full of mind-blowing facts. Subscribe to keep your brain buzzing. The earliest forms of writing date back to ancient Mesopotamia, around 3200 BC, where people began recording business transactions on clay tablets using a wedge-shaped system called cuneiform. This method involved pressing a reed stylus into wet clay to leave behind triangular markings that could represent objects, ideas, and sounds. It was a tedious process, but these clay tablets served as receipts, legal documents, and even rudimentary textbooks for scribes learning the art of writing. It's hard to imagine that books, which have become so commonplace, were once rare treasures that took years to create. Then the sheets had to be carefully dried, pressed, and smoothed out. The process of copying texts by hand, known as manuscript, continued for centuries and involved skilled individuals called scribes. Scribes were highly respected in society as they played a vital role in preserving knowledge and history. For thousands of years, papyrus scrolls were the primary material used for writing. They were lightweight and portable, making them ideal for carrying written texts. However, papyrus had limitations. Authors could now create works specifically designed for the codex format, such as novels, which became popular during the Roman Empire. The process involved carefully copying texts onto high-quality paper or vellum. An animal skin used for writing and decorating the pages with intricate designs and illustrations. These books were not just for reading, but also for display. Showcasing the artistry and craftsmanship of the people involved in their creation, the production of illuminated manuscripts was a collaborative effort involving several artists, including scribes, illuminators, and sometimes even composers. The majority of people could not afford to purchase books, and reading was limited to a small portion of the population. Additionally, the tools and equipment required for writing and illumination were also costly investments, further increasing the financial burden associated with book production. In the 15th century, Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press with movable type in Europe, revolutionizing book production. This invention enabled mass production of books, making them more affordable and accessible to a wider audience. The printing press allowed for the rapid duplication of texts, reducing the reliance on laborious hand-copying methods. With movable type, entire pages could be printed quickly and accurately, significantly speeding up the book production process. The production process involved numerous skilled individuals working over a long period to create a single copy of a text, resulting in high prices that were prohibitive for most people. As books became more widely available, they played a pivotal role in shaping society, influencing education, science, and the exchange of ideas. As paper production spread throughout the Mediterranean region, books became more accessible, although they were still labor-intensive to produce. Each step in this process reflects humanity's relentless pursuit of knowledge, communication, and the desire to preserve our thoughts and stories for future generations. The invention of the printing press marked a significant milestone, enabling the mass production of books and democratizing access to information. This innovation has had a profound impact on our world, shaping society, education, and the exchange of ideas. As we reflect on the journey from clay tablets to printed books, we can appreciate the invaluable role that books have played and continue to play in our lives. It was susceptible to damage from water and insects, and the scrolls were cumbersome to navigate. See you next time. As written texts grew longer and more complex, the need for a sturdier and more efficient writing surface became apparent. They copied important text to create multiple copies, ensuring that the written word wouldn't be lost or destroyed. Books were often kept in libraries or in the possession of wealthy individuals who used them for study, entertainment, or as a status symbol. The limited availability of books also contributed to their perceived value and helped to preserve them as cherished and rare items. Paper allowed for the creation of individual sheets, making it easier to organize and store texts. It also enabled the development of codex as early forms of bound books, where sheets of paper were folded and sewn together along one edge. Codex format provided a sturdier, more compact alternative to papyrus scrolls. This shift from scrolls to codexes marked a significant advancement in the production of books. The individual pages allowed for a more user-friendly reading experience. The binding made it simpler to navigate and keep track of the text. Once the papyrus sheets were ready, the scribe would start writing at the top of the scroll and move from left to right, writing in columns that ran vertically. When reaching the end of a sheet, the scribe would turn the scroll and continue writing on the backside, keeping the columns aligned. To join the sheets together, the edges were often folded over to create a neat seam. Finally, the edges of the scroll were sealed to prevent the papyrus from fraying and ensure its longevity. Let's rewind time and explore how the very first book was made. What materials did early humans use? Hieroglyphic writing used pictures of objects and abstract ideas to convey meaning. Scribes had to meticulously copy each character, ensuring that the text was spelled correctly and that the words flowed properly. Mistakes were costly, and correcting them involved erasing the error, which could damage the papyrus fibers. These symbols were carved into stone or wood, making them permanent and highly durable. Writing wasn't common. It was mainly used for monumental projects like recording the deeds of pharaohs and creating tombs, filled with elaborate artwork and writings to accompany the deceased on their journey into the afterlife. For thousands of years, written language was an uncommon skill. Around the same time, in ancient Egypt, a different type of writing developed. Papyrus was made by placing strips of the papyrus plant side by side and beating them into a single sheet using a mallet. The result was a lightweight, inexpensive material suitable for writing on. Unlike clay tablets or stone, papyrus was flexible, allowing for the creation of scrolls, a convenient, early form of a book. In both of these cultures, writing was not only a way to communicate, but also a means to express power and wealth. Only those with special status or knowledge had access to these writing systems, which remained largely exclusive and inaccessible to the majority of the population. The creation of the first true books didn't happen until the invention of papyrus in Egypt around 3000 BC, making a papyrus scroll required several steps. First, the papyrus plant had to be harvested and prepared. Creating a single papyrus scroll was already a time-consuming task, but when creating multiple copies of a text, it became a monumental undertaking. Copying manuscripts was not only laborious, but also required precision and accuracy. So what materials did early humans use? Around 1700 BC, paper made from the papyrus plant became available, offering a more durable and convenient option for writing. This transition was not only practical, but also influenced the way texts were written and read. Manuscript books continued to be created by scribes who specialized in calligraphy and illumination. The work of these scribes and illuminators was highly valued, and illuminated manuscripts were often commissioned by wealthy patrons, including members of the clergy and nobility. Although books were becoming more widespread, they were still rare and expensive items. Materials used in book production were also costly. Quality paper, vellum, inks, and pigments were expensive to produce and acquire, contributing to the overall expense of books. The scarcity of books meant that those who had access to them, such as scholars and religious figures, were highly respected in society. Finally, we come to the printing press. This innovation led to the mass production of books, which in turn contributed to the spread of literacy and knowledge. From clay tablets to papyrus scrolls, paper manuscripts, and finally books with the printing press. The evolution of bookmaking has been a remarkable journey. If you found this video interesting, please leave a comment below about what other topics you'd like to see covered in future videos.